Welcome to Beyond Six Figures, the podcast that helps business coaches to micro-niche, get noticed, and become fully booked. Learn from top industry leaders who've successfully taken their businesses and their lives beyond six figures. Get ready to level up your coaching business and make this world a better place, one business at a time. And now, here's your host, Ziv Raviv.
Welcome to Beyond Six Figures. Our guest today is Jill Maidment, the founder and CEO of Natural Talent. Jill is a multi-award-winning executive coach who has delivered over 12,000 hours of transformational coaching to senior leaders across the FTSE 250, which is the biggest 250 businesses, companies in the UK, and top Fortune 500 clients, and public sector too. She is recognized globally as one of the top executive coaches. She's also a prolific contributor to professional learning platforms where her guides on resilience, hybrid leadership, soft skills, and leadership and leading through change have reached an audience worldwide. Jill's work all about turning uncertainty into opportunity, helping leaders build resilience, lead effectively in hybrid environments, and sustain high performance under pressure is the reason why we are so excited to have her with us today. Hello, Jill. How are you?
Hello, Ziv. Very, very well, thank you. And it's a real pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to speaking with you.
It's such a pleasure to have a worker share a few minutes here with us. And I remember as a coach starting out, just like thinking about being able to connect with other coaches and listen to the way that they see business and they lead their clients. Just being a fly on the wall, as they say, was something I was looking forward to. And in your case, it's just a tremendous pleasure to have this opportunity. So first, I want to start with the question that I love leading with, which is, what's your story? How did you get here to, coach people and become the CEO and owner of Natural Talent?
Okay, thanks, Ziv. I'll try and keep it very short because it's quite a long story. But yeah, my original career, if you like, was in sales, marketing, account management. And I was fortunate. I worked for some amazing global organizations. I worked with the airline industry. I even worked with the BBC for a while. So a real solid commercial background. But also in all those roles, I was really keen on developing people. So I used to coach and train people, even though it wasn't part of my remit. I'd do that quite often in my own time. And when I look back, I was very fortunate with my parents. My mother was a teacher. She was also a coach, but we didn't call people coaches in those days. So from a very, very young age, I was very aware that people that needed any kind of help, it didn't matter what it was, whether kind of school children needing extra tuition, maybe their parents, our door was always open at home, very, very much values-led, very authentic, really good, solid platform. So I was interested in coaching from a very, very early age, but it was called more training in those days. I was also fortunate that my father used to work in sales. So he was trained by an American company who were really into sort of positive mindset, being really positive about what you're going to do, having that great attitude. So that was kind of my career history and my background. And then in most of my roles, I worked for a couple of consultancies, and I realized I really wanted to get my hands dirty. I wanted to roll my sleeves up because I was always in a consultative role. I wanted to be literally getting my hands dirty. The clients were saying, we need you to coach, we need you to train. So that's why, unbelievably now, Ziv, 22 years ago, it's just incredible. It's gone very, very quickly. But that's why I set up Natural Talent, and I trained and qualified as a coach. I got accredited as a coach. And it was to be different, really, from the big consultancies. It was to be more personal, very kind of dynamic, a lot of impact, all the things. Thank you so much for the great introduction. I wanted to record that myself. I was like, who is this person? But it was very much, let's tailor coaching, training, leadership development, management development, whatever it is, resilience training to that individual. So that's a little bit of my background.
I love it. And you have had the pleasure and still have the pleasure to coach business owners and CEOs, all of the C-suites, all sorts of different management teams in different companies, both in the UK and in the US and worldwide. Would you mind me asking, are there some clear differences that you see when you coach people from the UK versus, for example, the US?
Really good question. Yes, thanks, Ziv. I mean, obviously, everything I do, or most of what I do, is confidential, so I don't tend to share too many insights. But yeah, I mean, I think most people would agree that in the UK, I would say a lot of individuals are less, if you like, go-getting, whereas it's very, very well known the American dream is still kind of there. And what I find is very much with the large American organizations that I work for and have indeed worked for, they're very, very ambitious. They're high growth, they're very, very fast paced. And you could argue, well, so are some of the UK companies, but it's very fast paced. So quite often it'll be a 45-minute coaching session. And if you'd asked me a few years ago, okay, can you coach in 45 minutes? I was like, not so sure. But a lot of it is very much grounded in 360-degree feedback. So really identifying leaders' strengths, but also their areas to improve. So it's very, very tailored, very specific, laser focused almost. So really, really impactful. You know, they're not so much of a fan of lengthy meetings, whereas especially in the UK, we have quite a meeting culture, I would say. So yeah, very, very fast paced, very impactful. They want more, if you like, outputs on the whole. So what I would say is, and as I've evolved as a coach over all these years, certainly sort of the last 10, 15 years, especially working with the US companies, I have evolved more into a mentor because I've got that commercial background. I've got the experience, as you say, the global experience. So yeah, a lot of it is more using insight, practical tools, techniques, and experience, a lot of my experience as well. So it's like, what's the problem? How can we solve it kind of thing, if that makes sense.
It does. And speaking of problems and how to solve them, a lot of times in the day-to-day work of a coach, they are being torn into two directions. On the one hand, the client presents a problem and they just want to fix to the problem. They want a bottom line, too long didn't read type of an answer where you just tell them what to choose and they choose it and proceed, or you tell them how to fix it and they go ahead and implement that. On the other side of the range, there are clients that are presenting problems, but they are open for finding the solution by themselves, and what they expect and need from you is the accountability, keep them accountable for it, and the question that you will present to them that will help them come up with a plan. Sometimes they are not sure where are they in that range, but you have an idea about what you're willing to do and what you're going to do with them. So where do you find yourself in that situation where the client sometimes have the solution within them and sometimes they just want some helping hand?
Really good question. Thank you, Ziv. And I talk to quite a few of my clients about this that are going through like coaching qualifications themselves, that want to be able to coach their team, but also mentor the team. So a lot of qualifications are very much focused on coaching. So it's asking lots and lots of questions to get the individuals, you say, to have that aha moment, that light bulb moment, to go, okay, I see what I'm doing. As I've just said, working with the Americans, it is more the mentoring, and it does depend, obviously, on a case-by-case basis. Usually I have what we call the chemistry coffee, chemistry herbal tea, or the intake meeting before I coach with individuals, and that can be as part of a global program, a leadership program, or one-to-one individuals, but usually it's under the umbrella of the organization. And so we have that conversation. What kind of coaching do you need? What kind of coaching do you like? What's your preferred way of working? So lots and lots of open questions up front. I would say most of the work that I do is more mentoring. And the reason behind that is from very, very first initial clients that I had, and subsequently with some coaching programs where I've been asked to take over from coaches, the individuals have said to me, look, it's all very well. I'm very happy trying to find the answer myself and have that light bulb moment. But my issues are so specific, so complex. I don't want a coach that's saying to me, how does that make you feel? What do you think you should have done? So there's a place for that. But I would say probably the more senior in an organization an individual gets to, obviously time is of the essence. So they need to say, okay, this is the issue, this is the problem, this is what I need to work on. We've got limited time because time is so precious for them as well. how can you help? What are your suggestions? What are your insights? So it's a real combination. It is obviously individually, it's bespoke to every individual, but that is really the shift. So I suppose the more of a veteran, seasoned coach you become, the more individuals, especially the senior execs, they will ask for somebody that can actually give them those insights. So when I'm asked to take over programs, usually the individual will say, I didn't get anywhere with my coach. We kept going round and round in circles with questioning because of course, coaching, there's lots of coaching models, there's lots of open questions out there, but it sometimes just goes down a rabbit hole. And also individuals will say, look, it took 3 sessions, maybe an hour and a half each for me to go, I get it now. Whereas it was like, my boss, whether that was the chairman, the CEO, or the C-suite partner has said, look, these are the issues, this is what you need to work on, or this is the issue that we have organizationally wide. So how can you resolve it? So yeah, very much tailored, but I think summarized it there, hopefully for you, Ziv.
So you personalize your work with the client based on their style and their needs, and that puts you somewhere in the middle. You can sometimes mentor them and just show them what's the next step, what's the decision that you have experience with that you can guide them with. And sometimes it's all about letting them figure it out by themselves. So you approve of both of the options, basically.
Absolutely. And quite often the steer does come from the main sponsor of the executive coaching program in an organization. So that might be the chief people officer, it might be the CEO, it might be the chairman, chairwoman, chairperson. So sometimes you get that steer. And I would say the more senior you are in an organization, the more often you get the steer. And the more senior you are as a coach and mentor, then you do get that steer to say, right, this is what we need to work on. And we have those sort of set programs. But yeah, flexibility is obviously the key because coaching isn't a linear process, as you know. So you can have the most detailed brief on the planet and it can say, okay, the brief here today is you're an executive career coach. This individual needs to get to the C-suite. They're at director, EVP, whatever, VP level. These are the key strengths. These are the areas of development. But then, of course, it might not end up being that. It might end up being, do you know what? Actually, the most important factor here is resilience, building in that ability to bounce back from setbacks, bounce forward, deal with stress, pressure, etc. So, yeah, very, very much personalized to the individual.
When you work with a company, let's say they introduce you to the management team or the sales team, whatever, and you give them a training maybe, or you manage the offsite day, and then you offer them some coaching, and you sometimes get multiple coaches from one company. How do you deal with the topic of maintaining, the etiquette of keeping the information from each person compartmentalized, because they might actually talk about each other. They might actually mention problems that are going through with each other, and you're in the middle of all of it. What's your point of view on that situation?
Thank you, Ziv. And yeah, that's common. And to be honest, right at the very beginning, one of my first large programs was a leadership development, management development program, even an assessment program, and then it was one-to-one coaching. So I always say, and this is kind of part of my ethics and values-led coaching, is everything is confidential. And if I'm subcontracted, occasionally as an associate, if I'm asked to work with a competitor who's basically needs some help, for example, I always say, that's fine, but don't ask me for any specifics. So I've based my practice and my coaching business around confidentiality. So yeah, very, very early on in my coaching experience, I learned that you have to maintain confidentiality. Of course, if it's a large program, a leadership program, then there may be key elements that people are working on. So it might be part of an online global program where they have maybe 5 or 10 objectives. So the coaching has to align with that. So in terms of a summary to show that we're not just sitting having a cup of tea, coffee or whatever together online or in person, yes, we can say, okay, we talked about, for example, strategic awareness. We talked about commercial acumen. We talked about managing remote or cross-functional teams. But the key is always to maintain that confidentiality. And I know not knocking obviously more junior coaches, they do struggle with that. And I know as well, they do have supervisors and a lot of supervisor sessions. There is that kind of argument at the moment within the coaching industry is about, okay, well, how much exactly are you telling who, what and who to? So yeah, it's a difficult road to tread, but very experienced in that from virtually day one, I would say.
And these days, do you also work with smaller businesses?
Yeah, great question, Ziv. Definitely. I don't tend to work with too many individuals, but quite often I get asked to work with small, medium-sized enterprises, so maybe below 50 million US dollars or UK pounds, and also startups occasionally, so very ambitious startups. So that's with the business owners. That's very much what I call the business coaching hat on. And okay, what do you need to do? Not necessarily in terms of processes, but very, very much in terms of growth, establishing the team, developing some of the key skills as well. So yeah, most of my career and within coaching in the last 2 decades has been around corporate work, so large organizations globally and within the UK and Europe and Scandinavia and various places in between, online as well. But yeah, also occasionally with smaller companies.
What would be the bare minimum amount of yearly income that you will accept as a client? Like, do you have a red tape for your clients?
That is such a great question. Thank you, Ziv. I would say there's no bare minimum. And the reason for that is most of my work still comes in via referrals. So I can see you're surprised about that, but I've always, wanted to be authentic. I provide, believe it or not, people are quite shocked when I say I provide 40, sometimes 60% of my time pro bono, so working with retiring athletes, injured athletes, sometimes military personnel. It depends on my workload personally, but I really believe in, it's my kind of calling, my mission, my purpose really is to help people. So if somebody comes to me and says, as has happened over the last few months, I've got this great business idea, I'm on a business program to sort of start this company, what are your thoughts? Can you give me some time? Then of course I will. What tends to happen is very, very quickly, of course, they get very, very busy and it's like, right, I need to set up processes and procedures. But yeah, I mean, obviously if I've got the capacity and it's something interesting and relevant that I can help with, I will help.
In business, a lot of time, especially in small, medium business, they will have some sort of a service, and then that service can be even something like time and material, like what we do when we actually do a coaching for an hour, we get paid for the time. But then sometimes there will be a value ladder where there will be a profit maximizer, something that we sell that makes us more money than the hourly rate per se, because of the value that is generated as a result of our work. What are some profit maximizers that you use in your business?
Really good question, thank you. And I would say probably, again, you're going to be surprised if I don't tend to monetize or create packages in the business. And that's because, as I said, when I started out, it was very much, helping individuals, teams, organizations to be more productive, to get that holistic view. So because everything is bespoke, yes, of course, it can be like $100 million turnover organization, or it can be a startup or a small company that has similar issues. But I've never, you'd be surprised here, never ever looked at profit maximization at all. It's really ethically, morally about helping the individual. And that's why people say to me, oh my goodness, you should be a multimillionaire. You've helped so many organizations, big organizations, medium size. No, I always say, if you want to be successful, if you want to be a great coach, do not chase the money. I know a lot of companies and individuals have, but I've always stayed very, very much true to my roots of, I want to help people. Don't get me wrong, sometimes there are large programs where coaching is only a small part, and then I bring in specialists as well. So I get involved in those kind of larger programs. But no, profit maximization has never been on the agenda, surprisingly.
But what about when you take the entire management into a day where you manage their day, you go through their plans, you help them assess their plans? Are they paying for your time as if you're coaching one person, or is there some sort of a different?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. So usually, as you know, coaching tends to be around an hourly rate or an hour and a half, 2 hours or whatever. And then for a day, that's always been a day rate. So the previous consultancies I've worked for and the ones that I occasionally do work with, we tend to have an hourly rate as a one-to-one coach, or potentially for small team coaching. So like maybe 4 or 5 people, group coaching where they might be not co-located, they might be different countries and maybe peers that you're coaching. But in terms of on-site group leadership coaching, that tends to be what we call the day rate. So, and that's really been the norm within consultancy, 1-to-1 or even 1-to-2 or 3 or 4. You've got your hourly rate as coaching, and then anything that's larger. So a training day, for example, strategic offsite, that tends to be then your day rate, if that makes sense. Quite nice. Traditional, but still the way everybody expects you to quote.
So you mentioned that when you work with clients, they get to you through referrals for the most part. Did you have some minimal amount of time that they need to commit to when they start working with you, or can they just cancel it at any time?
Another good question, thank you. So yes, a lot of the work comes in through referrals, so from existing clients or clients that maybe have worked for a previous client organisation and then move on and ask me to come in and do different things for them or the same things, or working with my associates, bring them in as well. So I don't, again, tend to provide big packages and big coaching programs, and that is unusual because quite often organizations will want to sign up to, okay, we want, for argument's sake, a year's program. The issue I have with that, and clients often really struggle with it. They say, we want to sign up to a year's program or 6 months or whatever. I'm like, well, okay, what are the objectives here? And again, looking ethically and morally about what I'm delivering for the client, I'm saying, well, it's going to depend on them. I'm pretty sure that they're going to achieve this, this, and this, the key objectives, overachieve those, build on their strengths, get some of their development needs met. That's not going to take 12 months. Quite often it's going to take 3, maybe 4, maybe 6. So that's where the flexibility is. And that is very, very unusual. So I can do that because, as I say, I've got my own time. Much different, of course, if you've got a team of coaches, for example, working on programs within one organization. But yeah, that's where the flexibility, the personalized, tailored approach comes in, because there's no point. I wouldn't say to an organization, okay, they're going to need 20 hours. When I look at the individual, I think, you're not going to need 20 hours. Conversely, you might have individuals that have like 6 sessions or 12 sessions and then say, do you know what? I've now realized, yes, I've learned all this, I've developed, I've met all my objectives, my boss is happy, but now I've decided I'm very ambitious and I want his job or her job or whatever. So then sometimes they do add on and ask the organisation to add on a few more sessions. But the sessions are always very, very impactful. They've always got transformation in there. It's not a talking kind of, as we've said earlier, specific objectives, outcomes, and that, of course, creates the return on investment as well.
Does the coaching need to do any prep work before they meet you?
Yes, I'm known for that. So if it's on the back of a 360 feedback report, of course, then they need to think about what they need to work on. If they've been given some remit and specific objectives, then what I tend to always do is send out an initial questionnaire saying, okay, we know what in theory the organisation would like you to work on. What do you really feel that you would like to work on in addition to that, if necessary? Also, maybe to do some talent assessments. So I've got a background in psychometric testing, personality profiling. So quite often, if they haven't already done like a 360-degree feedback process or online like personality questionnaires, then I ask them to do that beforehand, very, very short, so that they come prepared, very, very focused, very committed with that kind of structure. And then the other question I get asked and I get told all the time is, you give homework. Do you give homework? And yes, of course. And that's where probably a lot of coaches that I work together with, they all say, you give so much homework. And I'm like, that does depend on the individual, but also it depends on people's learning styles. So some people say, just please give me a link to a TED Talk, an online book. Obviously, I've got the online ebooks myself, but others as well, audio talks, whatever people prefer. And of course, everybody is so busy, they want kind of bite-sized chunks. So gone are the days where we used to produce very, very lengthy workbooks for people to go through and think, okay, you're trying to increase your maybe strategic awareness, read this, do this. But some individuals will, and some clients actually say, I need 10 books. I read a book a week or a book a month. Give me some books. So recommend those as well.
I love it. Where can people go and learn more about you and your business, Jill Maidment?
Oh, thanks, Ziv. Yeah, so the website is www.natural-talent.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Jill Maidment at Natural Talent, and you can email me. Feel free to email me info@natural-talent.com. I tend to get back to people fairly swiftly as well.
And we're going to put all of these in the show notes of today's episode. And I highly recommend just following Jill and looking at the way that she conducts herself. Such an ethical business owner that is coaching businesses and is giving above and beyond in trying to help them reach their transformation. So thank you so much for being here with us, Jill. And thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Beyond Six Figures.
Thank you so much, Ziv.
Thanks for listening to Beyond Six Figures. Check out the extended show notes that include bonus material, practical tips, and exclusive resources on our website, zivraviv.com. Until next time, keep dreaming big and pushing your business and your life beyond six figures.